Hello, the interweb. This is a quick do-it-yourself video on changing the differential fluid in 2007 BMW X5 E70 chassis. This has a 4.8i V8, also referred to as N62. I believe this procedure would be the same on most, if not all, of the E70 chassis. I think those were made up until 2013, and should be very similar or the same even on the six-cylinder uh, X5s. So you can see on the screen the red arrow is pointing to the plug that we're going to um, do the extraction and fill. So this is what you're going to need is a 14 millimeter hex socket um, or tool. You can get it as a socket. I have this special tool. It's a BMW and Volkswagen specific tool. It's kind of designed to get into some tight places. I definitely needed it for the transfer case, but as you can see in the previous uh, image, that this is pretty accessible. So you don't necessarily need this tool. I found it handy. If you own a BMW, you're probably going to need it at some point, and it's not super expensive. But 14 millimeter hex male socket would work just as well. So here you can see there's lots of access for your wrench. I didn't even have to raise the car. One thing to note is that you do need to be on a level surface. I'm using a flat garage surface with no slant to it. I even took a level and put it on the base of the differential case to make sure that it was essentially level. And the reason is because you're going to fill and drain through the same hole, or the same hole. And so if you have it at an angle, you will quite possibly put in too much or not enough differential fluid when you fill it. So just be aware of that. It was a little tight. I think it had gotten a little baked on, so I had used a hammer and kind of tapped the wrench, and it came out quite easily after that. You can see I had a little bit of drain that came out. It stopped pretty quickly, but like if you have it gushing out, then you're probably not level, and you should probably check that. It's okay while you're draining it, but check it before you fill it. Like I said, for me, this dried up pretty quickly, and so it wasn't a big issue. So to extract the fluid, because it is level and it only gets filled to that the plug hole, you have to use a pump. I bought this pump on Amazon. It was about $20. It's just a cheap little hand pump, but it moves fluid pretty well. And pretty quickly, and so it's pretty simple to use. You put the top tube into whatever you're going to extract oil from. You put the bottom tube into wherever you're extracting oil to, so you can use it to extract and you can use it to fill. And here it is set up. So I put the top one up into the differential and the bottom one into my pan to collect it, and then I just pumped away. The one thing that you probably will need to do is move the tube around inside the differential. There's gears and different things in there, and so like for me to try and get all of the oil out, I had to like try different angles, and I would get a little pocket of fluid, and then it would suck dry, and I would move it around a bit. So just do that until you're not getting anything but air, and then you should be good. I don't think I got all of the fluid out. I think I got the majority of it out, and I think that's sufficient. Here's a picture of the fluid that was in there versus the fluid that I was putting in, or that I'm putting back in, and you can see it's quite a bit lighter. But really, this oil wasn't black, so it made me think that whoever had owned this previously, they probably had taken okay care of it. It's definitely a little more worn, but it's not in terrible shape. So that was nice to see. You're going to use Redline 75 weight 90. Synthetic oil for this. So you can see this is the bottom tube of my pump, and I put it in. I'll show you in the next slide. I put the top into the quart that I was going to pump from. I primed it till I got some coming out, and then I put it up into the differential and then began to fill. So here's the setup I had. I had the red line sitting there on the floor as flat as possible. Be careful, it kind of can get knocked over if you're moving around and stuff. Put the top up tube into it, kind of towards the bottom, but it can stick on the bottom, so just be aware of that and kind of like put it in there so that it can still suck and not bind. And then I pumped away and until the fluid began to run back out of the um, the fill hole. I also bought a new plug for this. You can see the old one. You can kind of tell that yeah, I think it was in okay shape. You can definitely see there's some gunk on it. But the main thing is the seal, and you can see that it's a little bit pitted. And so it's usually recommended just to buy these when you buy the oil and change these at the same time. So like I said, after it got all the way full, starts to drain out pretty heavily, then I just put it in. I put the plug in, tightened it down with this tool. But this is supposed to be torqued to 30 Nm, so I also have a torque wrench. It's foot-pounds, so you can look up and convert the 30 Newton meters to foot-pounds, and then I set it here, torqued it down, and that is basically it. The job was done, cleaned up, and went home. So anyway, I hope you found this instructive, and good luck on your attempts to change the differential fluid.